Here's some little thin pork loin steaks from a year and a half ago. Oh no, that's not. That's only a half a year. And here's some from almost 2 years ago. Been sitting in the freezer, so we're going to freeze dry these. I'm going to cook them first. I'm going to try a pretend sous vide and then grill them for a few seconds. So I'm going to get them in the food saver bags, seal them. First, I'll sprinkle them with a little salt and pepper. I put 2 pieces of the meat in each one of the pre-made quart bags that came with the seal meal. I used the manual button for the vacuum part so that I could pause it partway through and kind of straighten out the bag. Next, I used my other bag sealer to put 2 seals in between the piece of meat. So getting as close to the pieces of meat as I could to make the bags as small as possible. Let it cool for a few seconds. And then I can cut between them, which I'll do in a minute. I don't have a sous vide, but I do have a stove that has very good controls and keeps very even. So I've wrapped kind of a medium-sized pot, 3 gallons or something, with towels to help keep it insulated so that it stays the same temperature. I've got the thermometer in it. It's about 144.6, 144.8, so about 145, and it's been holding that for over a half hour. So I'm going to put the pork in there and let that cook for a while. Then when they are done, then I'll grill them for just a few seconds on each side. And I'll watch the temperature and make sure it stays about there. And this, of course, is going to cool this down a lot, because some of these are quite cold, perhaps even slightly frozen still, or partially frozen. Okay. And we'll come back. So I've been keeping it about 140 degrees. And if I check this little chart, at 140 degrees I need 12 minutes, and I've had it there for about an hour. So I'm probably plenty. So I'll get those out, the other one's in, and get these on the grill them for just a very short time. So the advantage of a sous vide one, an actual real live one, is that it would have, you know, it has a little stirrer involved in it, so that it keeps it all evenly temperature without having to come and stir it. I've been just going over and stirring it every so often. So the freeze dryer is defrosted now, and it's time to get the next batch in. Here's the water from our homemade hamburger helper type meal, a little less than a gallon. So we'll get this set up. All right, so got that. Got the thermometer in place. We'll get the front in. I probably need to put new insulation on here pretty soon. That's getting kind of mangled. Get that closed. So we get the drain valve closed and get this cooling, and as soon as it's cold enough we'll get the next batch in, which we're going back to the top of the list, so it's meats again. Got some pork loin that's going in there. I didn't have 10 pounds in the freezer, so I added to it some of the beef steaks that we still had. So the pre-cooked weight was about 10 pounds, or just slightly over 10 pounds, about 10 pounds and a half. And now it's less than 10 pounds. And that's due to, of course, cooking it, you lose some weight, and also snacking it, you lose some weight. Well, the steak loses the weight, I gain the weight. Anyway, so we lost some weight due to cooking and to snacking. So get the drain valve closed, and get it started. It will come back as soon as it's cold enough. It's just over 60 degrees right now as it's starting. It's almost 10 o'clock. It's time to get those in there. Of course, it's been 2 hours. It's already really cold. We'll go get the trays for this batch loaded and get them in there. Let's see how fast we can go. So a quick game of food Tetris. Try to get these on there as quick as possible and as tight as possible in a single layer. So, and I do have a couple of them already, or got one already drilled. So it's ready to go right on there. So I don't know if it'll fit in the spaces I have. Go over the top. Oh, that's not bad. If I have to, I can double up layers. Now tray 2. So it's about 1.5 pounds on that tray is all. If I do it that way on each tray, I'm only going to have about 6 pounds. So I'm going to double up some of it. Kind of, I'll just add a few on there. I'll add a few to another tray, and then we'll get the weights of them. Tray 3, 1719, and then tray 4. So tray 4, I'm going to use some beef we had left over. Oh, come on. It should be able to fit if you can play your Tetris right. Oh. All right. We'll get some thermometers in these and see what we can do. That was about not a great angle. Okay, but I'll put that one on top of it, help insulate it. Okay, do the same kind of thing, go into here and then put one on top of it. And I'm going to put one on top of it. They're a little light, but the pre-cooked weight is probably about right. And it's the best I can do tonight. Let's get them in there. So I'm trying to do 10 pounds in a batch. These might have been 10 pounds before they were cooked. I think it was, because I'm pretty sure I had 7 3/4 pounds of the pork loin, but we ate one to test it. And I think I had 4 pounds of the beef. That gives us 11.5 pounds. And yes, we sampled the beef too. But I don't think we ate that much. So I think there was about 10 pounds before we cooked it. So I could kind of look at it that way and go, hey, we've got 10 pounds before it was cooked. But I really wanted 10 pounds before it went in the freeze dryer, or the wet weight of the items. Anyway, we have extra of some others. It'll even out, and that's the best I could do right now. So these are getting in there and getting started. So I'll start at the bottom at tray 4. No, I'm going to put tray 4, the thicker beef one, at the top and work my way down. Okay. So, I want to make sure that gets sealed well. Okay, it looks pretty good. Check the drain valve. Now we've got a good ring around there, and I've got a good seal. because this is going to start like 2 or 3 in the morning. The vacuum is. I want to make sure that they're sealed and no leaks. So I'm doing it ahead of time, make sure that it will not fail on the seal. It's been sitting cooling for a few hours, so I'm going to just rewarm it real quick before I take it out to check it, because it would be ridiculously cold right now. So I'm going to just give it more dry time. And as soon as that's warmed up for 20 minutes, half hour, then I'll take them out and check them. But it says negative 64. I don't want to touch the trays when it's negative 64. And water would start condensing, or moisture would start condensing on it basically instantly I open that up or take it out. Anyway, so we'll let that warm up a bit and then come right back and take it out and check them. And then still going to put them in for time to check for dry. It's been reheating for 45 minutes now. The food is the thermometers in the food say that it's over 60 degrees. So we'll take them out, weigh them, and then put them back in for the remaining time to make sure that there's no more weight drop. So we'll get them out and check them. Okay, I've got my note, the fact that I added 4 hours last night. And then I'll have 45 minutes so far today. So it gives it 32 hours and 45 minutes so far. Now, if we don't find any weight drop on these, we'll count that as the time. So, arrowing past the rest of it. Okay, get the drain valve open. Okay, opening the drain valve. Keep the scale on, get ready to check these bad boys. And starting at the bottom, tray 1, 1079. Actually, I'm not going to rotate these because the top one has the thickest pieces. So tray 2, okay, tray 3, and tray 4. And these are all much thicker than the pork ones. So I'm going to leave it at the top and not rotate them. 1143. Okay, so they've all gone down about 500 to 600 grams per tray. And so this one's going back up on the top. And we'll get the front back in. Going to give that another couple hours, or however long it'll take, because it's time for our walk. Should be back before 2 hours. We'll check it to see if there's any more weight drop. So we'll get that restarted. More time. Check the drain valve. Continue. And go. All right, and the door has a good seal just immediately, so that's all good. So we'll come back and check it in a while. The weather outside's beautiful. It took a little longer to go for the walk than sometimes it does. It's all the thermometers are up to temperature. They're over 110 degrees. Well, let's get them out and check them. Bypass the rest of that. I don't know if I've ever mentioned about this little plastic cover here. This was, I'm not even sure what came in here. Batteries, memory. It was part of some thing that arrived at some point with something in it. It just happened to be the exact right size to cover this. And the importance of this is, that's a touch screen. If you see dust on it while it's in the middle of a cycle and wipe it off, you can cancel out your cycle. Ask me how I know. So now we have this on there so we don't so it doesn't get dust on it, and we don't wipe off the screen and cancel it. Opening the drain valve. That probably. Okay, starting with tray 1. So it's 1078, tray 2. less than 1 gram. I'll just set them in here in case we want to restart. 1131. And this would be the one that I would be most concerned about because it was so thick. 2.5 hours and 1 gram per tray. There's about 300 grams on a tray. So it's less than 1/3%. It's less than 1 gram per tray in 2.5 hours at the end of the cycle. I'm going to call that good. Going to go ahead and no defrost. We'll get these over there and get them bagged. Got to press the little record button. It was 23.97 kilowatt hours, and now I've reset it for the next one. Tray 1. So we'll get the thermometers out and check the weights and find out what our total weights are now. 1068. Okay, and tray 2, tray 3, and tray 4. I'll do the math separate on the pork and the beef because for rehydration, they're going to be a little different. Be right back. Don't go away. So the meat is nice and dry now. I'm going to bag it. Check the weights. As far as the math goes, I don't need to separate the pork from the beef. They all lost within about 1% of each other for all the trays. So it's just over 40% loss. So I'm going to label each bag with the amount that I put in that bag, and because this isn't, obviously it's not granular or it's not easily divided. So I'll label each bag with what I put in that bag as far as weight goes. And then I'll put the amount of water needed to get it back. You only really need to know the water amount to put back in if you're doing something like maybe stews, or if you're going to shred the meat and use it. Because if you just want to rehydrate it as a little steak, you just put it in a bowl of water or beef broth or something like that, and it'll absorb what it needs. You really don't have to worry about that as much. But I'll put that on the bag in case I need it. And I also put on each bag that it's cooked. So I've got some of the bags labeled now. What it is, when it went into the freeze dryer, the batch number, and then water needed, and I'll put the amount, and I'll put how much this weighs as I bag each one. Let's see what we can do with these. And pretty much regardless of size, I'm going to call each one of these little pucks a serving. That way I can track the number of servings involved. I don't know how else I would do that since they're just miscellaneous sizes and pieces. Okay, so, and I could put probably easily 4 in one of these bags. And I don't know how many bags I'm going to end up with, but I'm going to start with 4 in a bag. Mine. Okay, by putting 2 and 2, I can leave the bag pretty flat and it still holds 4 servings. So I think I'm going to go with that. So it's 102 grams. And I'm going to round it off a little bit for the sake of ease. So 4 servings, 102 grams. And the water needed is approximately 1.5 times the weight of the dry meat. It's really close to that. It's about 1.5, 1.54, somewhere in that range. So I'm just going to use 1.5 times. So then I'd need 153 grams of water. So I've got all the information needed to be able to make them nice and moist like they were before. And I've found usually for my freeze-dried meats, and probably because the way I cook them, they usually are more dry after they're rehydrated. But they're really good. You can put a sauce on them, and I find if I heat them with a little pat of butter on top, because that's one of the things, we're using such lean cuts all the time, really needs a little extra stuff added to it. Okay, all right, so we'll continue, and I'll probably do most of them with 4. Putting 4 of the pieces, and some of them are relatively small, but if you're having other stuff with it, and we'll know. I mean the sizes. So we'll know that they're kind of small servings. This last little bit, so I've got some little pint bags. I'm just going to put 2 servings. I'm going to just put 2 servings in one of these. Or 2 little pieces. Maybe it's one nice serving for a lunch or something. And now, the beef one. I have 3 bags. I'll kind of even them out as best I can, I guess. The serving size for the beef is probably pretty good, but the ones that I did for the pork are really quite small. Okay, so that's how I'm bagging them. I'm not sure what to call those for servings. If I do it just by weight, then these would be the equivalent of at least 4 servings. So why not? I'll call these 4 servings on each of these. We'll get the oxygen absorbers in there, get them sealed, and count up how many servings it is so we can chart that. 6, 8, 10, 12. 12 quart bags and 2 pint bags. So a total of 14 bags. I'm going to use the 300cc oxygen absorbers in that. So we'll get them put in there and then get them heat sealed. So I'm going to slide these down along the sides. So get these zippered shut. So I'm just zippering around the straw and then kind of folding it around the straw to seal it, suck out the extra air, and closing it and finishing closing the zipper as I pull the straw out, and it gets rid of all the extra air. So if you don't have a vacuum chamber or some other way, you can still vacuum them down a bit. And for some reason, I like to do that with the steaks and things. And now, heat seal time. So sealing as close to the top of the bag as I can. And the first one, again, I'm going to go twice to make sure that it's all up to temperature. This time I bagged in 2 different size bags, the pint bag and the quart bag. But they're still all the 7 mil Mylar bags with the gusseted bottoms. I really like these because then you can open them up and get quite a bit in there. So, and if I find any that don't seem like nice and smooth, then I like to make sure that I do it again and let it set for a few seconds to make sure that it really is sealed well. Okay. Make sure that I get that seal area nice and smooth. I really want to thank all the supporters of this channel. It's been great that so many people have been coming and watching. And a special thanks to those that have been buying me a coffee, Dutch Bros by the way, and also clicking on the super thanks. Thank you very much for all the support. It's really such a wonderful surprise to have so many people coming to watch me make wet food dry, or sometimes dry food wet. Okay, so I've got them all sealed. Want one more thing before I store them away. Last thing I'm going to do is add the gross weight on each bag in case there's ever an issue of water getting into the bag. So I'll put the weight on the gross weight of the bag on the bottom there. So if I ever have an issue with these bags leaking or having a problem, I'll know right away. The little pork loin steaks and the little beef steaks are dried now and packed in the Mylar bags and ready to put in the bins. And I'm calling it 53 servings because the way we bag them. I don't know what they really should be labeled as, but we'll know that there's at least 53 little pieces in there, and maybe we'll double up and have call it half of that when we go to use them. But it's got something to start with, information to start with, and we'll go from there. Starting with bin 4 now with this next set. Batch 19 of this series is ready to go in the bins. It's batch 519 for me. I'll move the camera close and we'll get them in there. So these are very thin packs, the way that I've got them in there. So part 1 of this bin is in there. As soon as the freeze dryer is defrosted, which probably be another hour or so, we'll get frozen cut green beans in there. So it's just a simple, straightforward green beans out of the bag. This isn't green bean season, so I'm not going to do fresh ones right now. I would love to do them out of our garden again. Green beans are terrible tasting when they're dry. You might as well just go out to your lawn, cut off some, and munch it, because they're just terrible. But yet they rehydrate great, and they're back to delicious green beans.